let's jump right into it. This is podcast number 4 of the BLD Financial Podcast. We have a special guest on today, somebody who was very gracious to allow us to use the beautiful space we're in, as well as, probably one of the first places I shot my first podcast. We're with Andrew Hines today, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy you guys probably know, and all the listeners probably know very well. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know it really worked out. You've been a staple in the real estate podcast space for a long time. Really the first one that kind of paved the way for everybody else, teaching people on, talking about real estate trends, deal analysis, how to do things. The industry has really evolved, from the time you really started until now. What are you doing right now? What's going on?
Well, yeah, to your first point, like 5.5 years of podcasting, and it blew by. It's crazy that it was that much time. So as you know, probably people who know me know I wrapped up the podcast in August, hiatus. So we'll see. I'm going to be doing something else with content in the future, but I'm not sure in what format. I've been kind of toying with the idea of maybe bringing in a co-host and doing more of a just banter kind of podcast rather than interview style. Like we just talk about what's going on. So probably what you guys had in mind when you started this, because I still need my venting. I need to vent my thoughts. Otherwise my wife hears it all, and she
can't have that.
She doesn't really want to hear it. So
I think anyone in real estate needs an opportunity to vent these days.
Because I have like ideas, right? And she's just only so interested.
She can only hear the same thing so many times. It's a healthy part of a real estate relationship.
Yeah. So in this, getting in front of a microphone and sharing like kind of what I think and my philosophies on business and where the market's going and what I think is an opportunity and is, I do miss that. I don't miss a lot of the work that goes into making it happen, but I love the the opportunity to talk like this. So.
I guess the juice is flowing too. I mean, venting alone just allows you to kind of just start talking about stuff. And when you're having like an engaged conversation with other people that are, doing similar things, allows you to kind of just inadvertently bounce ideas off of each other. And, someone might have an outside opinion that kind of sparks a new, idea in yours, or, shed some light on it from a different perspective. So, I mean, like just those casual conversations, I think really just, because it's casual and you're not forcing it and it's not a stressful conversation, it just kind of allows your mind to start getting a little bit more creative. And when you're kind of joking around about stuff, you're like, hey, that's actually not a bad idea. Like maybe we should start to implement something like that.
Well, I mean, case in point. So Matt Pichet, I've partnered with him. We do a bunch of stuff in the US now. Like our intro to each other was, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? And then he came on like 4 times probably before we ever even talked about doing anything together. And it just so happened, like we kind of became friends from the podcast. So there's an example. So many people I know are from that. We've talked ideas, and it's allowed me to kind of create a lot of respect for my approach, my philosophy to investing, because I think a lot of people have resonated with a lot of the positions I've taken on things over the years. Which, not trying to toot my own horn, I think that's why, because I got this outpouring when I finished the podcast. I had like 200 messages of and they were long. They were like, people really thought about it. They're like, I can't believe it's over. Like, meanwhile, they don't listen anymore. But it was like what got them there.
Yeah.
It helped them. And it's not just me. It's like my guests and what have you. But I know it's meant a lot to people, and that has created so much opportunity like over the years. And I think content is it's so brilliant. I just hit this like little wall briefly where I felt like I needed to make a change. So Matt and I are actually talking about doing something together where, to your point about easygoing, like what if we could do mixed content and entertainment? Like what if it wasn't just interview style, like get the information you need, but what if it was something that even like non-real estate people would want to watch, but it's got the real estate peppered in there?
Something real,
Yeah,
we have a conversation. You go to some of these events now.
Yeah.
They're casual events. They're nice because people are talking about their struggle and talking about the real things that are happening.
Yeah, talking about life. Yeah, like it's not just and if you can pair it with doing something fun. So we actually we're planning on doing events where we'll record them. We'll hopefully have some like snippet 12-minute conversations about stuff, but it'll be organic. So, we'll do like a golf simulator and we'll have a competition, team A, team B. So you have the competition, you have the fun side of it, you get conversations and, a lot of good content that can be cut up into snippets and such. So that's sort of what we're thinking, is it gives an opportunity to get people like you guys out, and like we can all talk and just have organic conversations while we're having fun doing something. Like I wish like somebody would have filmed my golf tournament, for instance, like, you know, like all the good conversations that happen and things like that. So that's kind of what we're thinking, going that direction, having a scenario where it's fun, it's entertaining. You don't have to be super hardcore in real estate. And even if you feel like you've graduated and you know everything already, you can still watch and enjoy yourself.
That's personality, right?
Yeah.
It's like watching those celebrities eat those hot wings.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
Like that dynamic, or like Bryson DeChambeau's Break 50.
Yeah.
Like it's like people are watching because they like golf, but they want to hear what the other guy has to say. So I'm thinking, that's sort of the next step.
You should do one, like you really want to get into it. You should do one in the middle of a flip and just have everyone hot mic'd and just the entire conversation of going through like flipping a house and just, hey, people who, have experience also want to quit 30 times throughout the middle of a process. Like it's I think like you kind of need to shed some light onto, like getting away from just like the Instagram of like, you're only showing the highlights. Everything's always positive. It's all this.
And
like,
I barely do that.
And
I'm like the anti-social media guy. Like I'm really not engaged in social media. I should be. We post our reels here and there, and I've got, a good team behind me, but some people just got that like in them to just pull the phone out and just talk to it all day long. For me, I've always struggled with that. And maybe I'm not unique at all in saying that. I just don't enjoy that.
No, it's a commitment. Like
it is.
It's a mental commitment. Like you're in it. Like you're attached to it. It's
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. They only see like the business side of it, but like the commitment to the actual, whether it's a brand or a thing that you're doing, it takes a toll on you.
It does. It's funny. I used to be all about it, and then I started the podcast, and I felt like, the podcast takes care of that. I don't need to do it, which in a way is totally true. And now that I'm not doing the podcast anymore, I'm like, okay, I really need to be more present. I need to be sharing more. And then I really respect Matt, my business partner, because man, he'll just unfiltered say anything on Instagram, and it's so natural for him. And that's a great part of our partnership, is I can let him be the loud one and do that kind of thing. And then hopefully we'll hire a camera guy that can just catch some organic moments.
Well, I think that's where it's going. Now people understand the legitimacy of it. They want to see the real life part of it. People, almost like vlogging was a thing back in the day.
Yeah.
And then it kind of fizzled out. And now it's coming back to like people want to know what you're doing, like really know like how you're doing it.
Like on a day to day, I could totally see why somebody would want me to like pull up my phone and record a 2-minute story about what I'm working on today, what the struggles are, because it's not all highlights, right? It's not all good, man. Like we sweat sometimes. We have like shit happen that's like crazy. We've had crazy stuff happen in Florida. I could write a book in the less than a year we've been doing this on just the stuff we've seen.
Yeah, when you wake up in the morning as a real estate investor, when you're working in real estate, you own your own business, like every day is another challenge, man. It looks good on paper, but man, is it difficult?
Yeah.
There's so much you do as a professional too that like you don't like, you want to shelter your clients from certain things, right? They don't need to know every single stressful update that comes up in a project.
Well, especially if I'm feeling negative about it, I don't want to put that energy out there, so I'm not inclined to. But sometimes I'm just like, whoa, this is a story people would like to hear this probably. Like we had a house sold in Fort Lauderdale, which I've alluded to. I sort of mentioned this on my podcast before I shut it down, but we sold it before we owned it. So we bought it, and we hadn't closed, and we got an offer because we were working with a good realtor that's well connected. So we found some buyers for us. They agreed to $950, and anyway, so $950 US. We had paid $750, and we hadn't even owned it yet. So we had raised the money to close, and we were getting ready to do that. And oh, great, it's sold for 20 days after we closed. Great, guys, so 20 days of interest. Well, they put down a $50,000 deposit. The Friday before the Tuesday they're supposed to close, they call up, hey, we need more time to get our financing. We're like, no, we'll just take your deposit. And then they took exception to that. Well, in Florida, you can have a title company that has a lawyer that represents the other side, and you're not represented. So their lawyer was gaslighting us, telling us that there were title problems, and we had FERPTA withholding issues for like tax standpoint, like just making stuff up, but knew we didn't have a lawyer, so we wouldn't necessarily be able to call his bluff. I eventually got wise to it, but it took me a few extra days. anyway, so after about a week, I basically put them on notice and I said, okay, so you guys have until today to sign an extension, and we just want clarity, and you're going to sign on the extension that if a day goes by, if your closing date is this day, the next day happens and you don't close, we're taking the deposit. There's no question. Because these guys told us, they threatened us. They're like, well, if you do that, we'll list pendency, which is basically like putting a lien on your house. And like, it could be fraudulent, frivolous, but it's going to lock you up for 6 months anyway. So we'll do that, which, I mean, it would hurt them. It's a lose-lose if they do that. So why would we believe that they would do that? I don't even know, but they could, because they would have to pay damages when they do it. But anyways, so they agree. They finally signed this amendment. We sent it the first day, and then we told them, okay, you didn't sign it. Offers off the table. We're going to the lawyer. The next day, their lawyer's calling us like, okay, we want to sign, we'll agree to these terms. We get that signed. Anyway, so it's the next extension. They get until September 13th. Sure enough, September 13th rolls by. We get a call at like 4 p.m. Yeah, we're not going to close it. We're not going to pay any extra. But if you give us 3 more days, we'll send over the $50,000 from their lawyer's trust account to our escrow company, like to our title company. And like, wait, like that's already agreed. You already said that's forfeited if you don't close. Like They just played games on games. So anyways, long story short, we finally had that money in our account after like 2 weeks later. We had to get an attorney involved to like harass their attorney, and they took a week to send a wire, and then we got a check in the mail. So finally we got it, but that's light. Like I have an even more insane story. Like that was just, I couldn't believe it. Like somebody put $50,000 down, didn't have it on a cash offer, didn't have their stuff in order, calls up and says, I need an extension 4 days before closing. And then gets mad at us and acts like we're the bad guys.
That sounds like back up against the wall kind of vibe.
Yeah, they were just swinging, right? They were just swinging, right? So fair enough.
You in that situation, like you just hope the other side doesn't know enough to call your bullshit, and then
they were hoping we didn't know. Yeah, they were hoping, and we had feelings, but we just felt exposed. But we finally got a decent attorney down in like out of Jacksonville that like helps us with everything now. So it's just one of those things. It's like your contractor down there. You have to have like they always call them attorneys in Florida, but yeah, you got to have a lawyer on your side that you can just ring up, and he charges us like $400 an hour or something. And so I get the bill with my 15-minute email response was this much, but it's like you need it. Yeah. Like, and I'm very concise with him. I need an answer to this. He gives me a concise answer. Fair enough. It didn't cost me that much, and it saved me, from making mistakes.
I always think
it's
funny
being friends with your lawyer.
Yeah.
that conversation goes an extra 10 minutes.
In Canada, it's different though, because they close the transactions, they don't really bill for the conversations. Whereas down there, you don't need a lawyer to close a transaction. So title company can. So you kind of have to go find a lawyer who can advise. And but we just had another one. So we bought a double wide in Pomona Park, Florida, which is like just south of Jacksonville. And we had Lawn Starter, which is like this company that they'll just book you somebody to come cut your grass. So we needed it cut. The day we closed, it was like a wheat field. So we get some guy out there, and we have a project manager dealing with this guy saying, I need you to clean up. Can you get rid of the yard debris? And check the garage. Can you clean it for yard debris? And the guy says, oh, you want me to clean the garage? Well, there was motorcycles and tools, and this guy loads them all up.
He takes
them, but the motorcycles and tools belong to the seller that sold the house to us that hadn't taken them yet, and he was given a certain amount of time to get it all out of there, and we're just like blown away. We're like, how does this happen? And the guy's like, well, you said to clean. You changed your mind. You told me to clean. Like, you were not told to take compressors and motorcycles, titled motorcycles, and all this stuff. And we were just scratching our head. This can't be real. So we have to break the news to the owner of it all. And he's obviously furious. And then we go to the police, and they're like, well, sounds like a civil matter. You invited him onto your property to clean, And I'm like, no. So then we're back to Lawn Starter. I'm like, okay, I got to find out who this guy is. So I skip trace the guy. I get his name. In the States, you can skip trace a guy and find him. He's a convicted felon. Grand theft auto, grand theft firearm, trafficking stolen motor vehicles. Like,
you picked the perfect one.
We didn't pick him. Lawn Starter did. So I messaged Lawn Starter. I'm like, well, we're on like a support loop. We're getting different reps each time. I'm like, I think you guys should really step in here. You put a convicted felon on our property. You have a duty of care. I think you should be filing an insurance claim with your insurance company and covering our losses here. And then finally I got a manager. And up to that point, we're like, they're like, well, the contractor says you told him to clean.
So what happened? How did it all boil down?
We're right in the middle of it still.
Oh,
We're still trying to figure it out. Like, because we want to make sure for the owner, like we take it seriously.
Obviously,
like,
for sure.
We want them to know, like, obviously we're doing everything we reasonably can. And, so we're in the middle of that. And it's like, that's one of those things where you don't necessarily want to share that stuff. Yeah. It's not glamorous.
No.
But
having that background check.
Can you believe that? Like, I'm like, this doesn't exist in Canada. You don't see stuff like that. But you put a felon, like somebody who's a convicted car thief, on a property, like, and to think that they might steal something is should be assumed.
Guarantee almost.
That guy was only supposed to touch the lawnmower and the grass. That's it. In and out.
You needed all doors and all garages locked. So
was that clean with a capital C? Oh, sorry. See, that falls into like the other subcategory of like complete removal.
And I kept thinking back. I'm like, no reasonable person. We're the reasonable people. No reasonable person ever interprets take tools and motorcycles and lawnmowers as clean debris. Like those are not debris. Those are tools, lawnmowers, and motorcycles.
Out of my garage, please.
Could you just steal everything, please? So that's the not glamorous. I mean, we've had good stuff. Like we had one. We bought a lot for like 26 grand, sold it for 53. 2 months later, essentially doubling our money, less closing transaction costs, and we've had a few like that. This Fort Lauderdale deal, when it finally does sell, we should make 100,000 plus, God willing, and we've got probably about 10 other listings of stuff for sale. So we're hitting the whole state, and we're now into Texas. We've got a lot subdivide project. We came across one that's just 2 houses on one lot. Got a decent deal from the seller. So we'll be buying the whole thing, and it's got a garage. So it's basically 3 living spaces.
There might be a lot of vacant land for sale in Florida coming up.
Well, they just had 2 hurricanes, right? 2 hurricanes, and but in Florida is known to be a state that just has a ton of deeded land. Like there's just so many parcels of land in Florida. Yeah. We never really needed to expand. I think our big reason to expand was, partly diversification, partly to give our lists a rest because we do cold calling. Mm-hmm. So we ideally like to let a list breathe for a few months before we start blowing up their phones again. But yeah, if you guys want to go into like procedure and all that and how that works in the U.S., like there's so much you can do in the U.S. like information wise, getting I can pull a list of all parcels of land that are within a certain acreage, and then I can pull their owner information attached to that. Then we can skip trace that list and get their phone numbers and their emails, like known phone numbers and emails. Like stuff you could never imagine in Canada.
No, land of the free, man.
And then we hand that over to the cold call company. Well, they actually internally do a lot of that for us. And they just blow up their phones with a triple dialer. And, they're calling a list of 10,000 for 28 days or so. And then they submit the leads to us, and then we work them.
Well, it's funny, like even Purview, like Purview, which is open data to public information. Like there's guys getting in trouble for abusing like that, and it's like your whole program is based around providing data that's on a public registry, and you're still cracking down on people using like that versus
it's interesting
the stuff you can do in the States. Like
and not every state's the same. Like in Texas, we have a heck of a time finding sale data because they don't disclose it. It's a non-disclosure state, whereas Florida, everything's like public. You can go on Zillow and you can run your comps. So, I mean, a good realtor is always valuable, but like you can do, like our team is internally trained like realtors to comp properties and like be able to do all that stuff. So it's super easy. And we're getting there a little bit in Ontario because we have like House Sigma and
CoStar now. Yeah. If people pay for CoStar, like you can get all the information you really want now. I think you
don't have to be a realtor to get CoStar.
No.
Well,
I think you can be in the mortgage industry as well and get it still.
Yeah, you can get Purview and stuff if you're licensed as an agent and stuff. So yeah, you can get that kind of information in Canada. It's funny because in Canada you can get all the tax owner information to anything. You just got to go into City Hall. They don't make it available. Whereas any county in Florida, I can just look up the county property appraiser. I can pull up the warranty deed. So the means of conveyance for that property, I can actually pull up the PDF and see who deeded that property to them. I can check the chain of title, make sure it's clean. Like it's just unbelievable. But it also like raises the question, like, is it really your private home if every detail about it is completely public?
Yeah, I mean the capitalist inside of me wants all the info, but like the person inside of me wants none of the info to be given away.
It's definitely a double-edged sword. Like I wouldn't like it. Like your home I mean, you can even on Zillow see a lot of them, especially like Redfin and stuff. Like you can see all the photos of somebody's house. Yeah. Hey, we're going over to Fred's house tonight. Yeah, look them up on Redfin. You can see all the photos from when they sold the house last.
That cleaner's just looking for garage pictures. Yeah. Who's got the most amount of stuff in their garage? Let me come in. I'll tidy it up.
Yeah. Just sold, eh?
Yeah.
You guys need a complete house clean?
Yeah. That's funny.
He's a great cleaner.
So your other podcast, you do your REI Hot Seat, you go through commercial real estate stuff in Canada. The sentiment around commercial mortgages, Ehren and I rebranded to BLD, stands for Buildings, Land Development. We specifically focus on helping commercial real estate investors, developers purchase. What are, obviously policy is changing, everything is changing to push towards purpose-built multifamily and stuff like that. Like, what are you seeing? Like, you're obviously talking to all these people as well. Like,
we're more like, realtor panel driven. So we do, I keep a pulse on what's happening by always asking them. So my brother-in-law, Jacob, he's on the panel, and then David Holshoff and then Zach Wilms, they're all on the same real estate team, and their whole team does nothing but commercial multifamily. They do some mixed use, but they're like commercial. I've seen a lot of just anyone I talk to. I see a lot of the ground up construction is a very popular thing, like purpose built for the MLI program with CMHC. So they're obviously now it's changed a little bit. It can't just be efficiency. So they got to do some affordability or some accessibility. But when you're ground up, you can build that stuff in, get your 100 points, go to 95%, and get a 50-year amortization. Which is also a double-edged sword, which I'm not like, for me personally, I would rather be like a slightly lower than 50-year am. I like to know I'm paying off my loan. But I mean, I can see, to qualify to get the cash flow, totally get it. And if you believe that you can keep, jacking your rents, or you think there's upward mobility there, it makes total sense. So I think that's a big thing, but I also do see people are coming back, and the deals are coming back. The deals are there to those who can discern them. I think that the notion that there are no deals in Canada is not correct. Yeah. There are definitely deals, but it's like, how many deals have you looked at? It's like once this interest rate correction, the interest rates increased and people stopped looking at deals all the time and really refining their ability to spot one. Where I see, Jake and Dave, when I talk to them probably the most on the show, is like, they're always looking at deals. And then when one pops up, they're like, hey, this is pretty good. Like, look, cash on cash works, and they're the full pipeline when they look at something. Like they're looking at it from the lens of who's going to buy this and how are they going to buy it? Let's structure the financing now. So everything they're running it like you guys would on the CMHC, guidelines to know exactly what stuff looks like, what it's going to look like. But yeah, we've looked at a ton of deals on the show that are like, significant cash flow. I don't know the cap rates offhand. I'm not 100% sure, but perfect burrs even like stuff where you could go in, you could burr it. A lot more of the boring real estate. That's the thing Jake and Dave say a lot is, this is the age of boring real estate.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's like boxes in the sky. You don't have to overcomplicate it.
Yeah, you're not trying to do like the big kick everybody out, run evictions and burr. Like that is way less common. But it seems like there's still an opportunity to do it for those who are full of piss and vinegar, so to speak, and want to go do that. Like, obviously, that's a hustle and that's a grind.
You just take a look at the guys who have money. I mean, they're taking advantage of opportunities.
Yeah.
Good realtors, they don't have to take a product to the MLS. Like, if you're good enough at your job and you have, being good at your job means you have a strong network, means you know how to sell that building. Like, you can, within a few days already know who you're probably going to market this building to. And if you're not in the loop and staying on top of your professionals in your networking, I mean, you're missing those pocket listings. And in today's market where, we're coming into a low cap rate environment, if you're buying multifamily and you understand how cap rates and interest rates work and what that means in the long run, now is the time to get into these buildings if you have the capital and they're not staying around for long. So
to that point, I know for Jake and Dave, like more of the properties they sell are off market.
Yeah.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, and I think as a general market sentiment, I believe that was what Dave was saying to me yesterday, is that that there's more transactions happening off the MLS than on for the multifamily commercial.
Well, the appetite is so large for the people who understand the opportunity right now that, for a property to, come up and the network to, realistically, they're calling like 10 people. They know there's 10 guys who are locked and loaded who have capital who are looking for deals of that size in that location. There is no limit of the amount of buyers who are looking for a good deal right now. So, the multifamily space, it's extremely hot. And, unfortunately for people who aren't in it, it's almost like if you have to be connected with people who have the opportunities.
Well, you need a level of expertise, right? Like you got to work with guys like you guys who know it. Like that's your job. You see it all day long. So good versus not good. You can spot that, tell them that. I mean, I know you guys are on the financing end, but like you need realtors that are of that caliber too. Like you got to be working with people who know it, or you got to know it yourself. And that's a long learning curve.
Yeah, super difficult. Unless you're a fund manager, like it's almost impossible. The opportunities that are even like coming at certain cycles within the year. Like, we're taking a look at deals right now. If you understand how long it's going to take to close a deal, let's say you're 90 to 120 days, you're going to catch the N1s that are coming up. You're going to have a higher net operating income. Maybe they've been, around for a little bit of time. You're going to have the ability to be able to negotiate. It's definitely a buyer's market. There's a lot of advantageous like points to be able to continue to buy real estate right now.
Yeah.
We're finding that, the ones who are looking to use insured financing, they're looking macroeconomically as to where rates are expected to go. And, if bond rates are going to follow the trend of the policy rate decisions, like, do I buy a project right now that is going to finish in 12 months? Am I going to be in a much better spot?
Yeah.
Like, dealing with professionals who are either looking at, the debt side of things and projecting where that's going to go, or just, understanding the sentiment of a market like a realtor and understanding like the demographic that's selling. It's almost the same type of people, like really old guys who've owned the stuff for a long time, who are looking to offload the pre-existing stuff, or funds who are looking to level up, who have like a semi-stabilized building or looking to get rid of it. It's the opportunity, whether or not people listen to it and think about it from like a news point of view, that's not reality. If you're in the business, like there's an immense amount of appetite for this type of development.
Like the best deals I see always tend to have like the current owner is like, usually some sort of like immigrant background, but has always hands-on worked on, never had a property manager. And the kids see that and they've seen, dad working on this building for 20, 30 years, showing up at like 4 a.m. toilet calls and they're like, I don't want to deal with this. And that building's got no mortgage on it and there's room for VTB negotiations, there's room for price negotiations. Those always tend to be the best deals that come out from what I've seen.
Yeah, and like if you got like people working with you that understand how to negotiate that stuff, like everything. Like I think a lot of people don't understand that the multifamilies never stopped transacting through all the craziness. It was just like, okay, now we're working with VTBs, and now all the deals had VTBs in them because the financing wouldn't work out otherwise. Or there was always a creative way to make those deals work.
I can't tell you how many
he saved it. Like like MLS Select propped up, the multifamily, the construction. Thank you, taxpayers, for
it props up those values, right? Like. I mean, here's something to think about. Like if debt didn't exist or wasn't a possibility, like a house would cost what you could reasonably save in a couple of years because people wouldn't spend what they don't have.
Yeah, but the banks wouldn't make any money.
The banks prop up the value. So like it's never been more clear after what's happened over the last couple of years. Like lending policy just dictates values in real estate.
And marriage wasn't a thing neither with diamonds. So I mean, like, it's like same thing, right? Like they built it.
Policy decisions. I think it's very interesting to see how policy decisions are changing based off of also like election year. Things are coming up. You have a demographic of people who can't buy a home, can't own a home. You have all these things that are changing right now to be able to, save the housing market. But that's that we haven't seen anything like that over the last like 3 or 4 years, or even like I guess 7 years. It's been that long. Seeing the policy changes now, and then maybe when we do have a change in government, what those policy changes are going to look like, and for housing starts. And I know we've listened to Polyev talk about, building new homes, having Canadians build these homes and finding different ways to build that. I think whether you're on the left or the right side, there's a general consensus of we need to build a ton more in Canada to fix this problem. Do you think that's actually going to happen?
I don't It's hard to say because like we don't really have the people that want to work. We don't have people that want to pick up a hammer. Really, like the only ones that want to do that are like pretty much the immigrants. Like we do, there are some. Don't get me wrong, but that's the hardest thing is that we keep immigrating white collar, but not getting the people in here that are actually going to build the houses. So that's one thing. And you know, construction cost is astronomical. It's ridiculous. So it's very prohibitive for a lot of people, and I think that's the number one problem. So I do think we're just going to see a lot more smaller units. I mean, we're already seeing that.
Purpose-built rentals, smaller units.
We're going to see a lot of ADUs, very small, but the numbers will work. Rents will still be crazy. I wonder this, and I don't know what you guys think, if there'll come a time where the immigrants will become soured to Canada and realize it wasn't what they wanted and leave. Like it's already happening where like applications are down, like people are realizing it isn't what it used to be. Are we anywhere near where people aren't going to be immigrating here? I don't think so.
Probably not. We're still one of the best in the world.
Yeah. There's still a lot of advantages to being in Canada over a lot of other countries. So don't get me wrong, but it's so hard to figure out where things land. I think that we're probably just going to continue to see, of course, prices go up, but we're going to see a lot more smaller units to make them affordable. So eventually, you'll just be paying $3,000 a month for a 400 square foot apartment, and that'll become the new norm.
New York style living.
Manhattan style, right? Every square inch matters.
Yeah.
The thing that concerns me with like immigration is Canada's reliance on it for GDP, but also like Canada just seems to be such a moldable country. Like, we give in to the needs of the immigrants more than
because you have no
anything.
assimilation, right? Like it used to be like if you immigrated to a country, you assimilate to the local values, and immigration was at a pace where that would work. Like people came in, they learned to speak the language, they learned the cultural norms, how Canadians negotiate and do business together, and pleasantries, mannerisms. And now it's like you slam enough in, like you just create this melting pot that never fully melts, never blends. Like, so the culture of Canada has been changing because of the pace of immigration. And it makes it really tough because for a high trust society to exist, I need to know what my neighbor's thinking. I need to know how my neighbor will behave. I need to know that if I need a cup of sugar, I can go knock on their door. And that's changed over the years, right? It used to be like my dad would talk about when he grew up, he's like, 10 years old, running around the neighborhood, going over to the golf course, like him and his buddy by themselves. Like, I don't know. I feel like people are a lot more skeptical to let young kids do that.
Doors were unlocked.
Yeah, doors were unlocked. Like, the more we create a system where you have differing value systems, and it just causes a low trust society, and low trust society needs more government. It needs more taxes. It's basically an imploding proposition. Like you can't sustain when you do that. So if Canadians, were to blame because we didn't have enough kids, we didn't prop up the population, we sucked it dry. We all went and got white collar jobs and didn't have kids, and if we had gone the other way and had big families, we wouldn't need to prop up our GDP. It would be there. So, I mean, we're to blame for it. What do we do with that? I don't know. We try and do better in the future. Have more kids now if you can.
Have more kids. Maybe try to focus on our natural resources. A lot like
Polyev conversation.
Polyev has been outlining. Again, I know he's a
like
politician, but oil. We have more oil than Saudi Arabia.
We should be because somebody put this up the other day, and I shared it on my story. Like we should have basically no taxes because there are countries that have oil, like Saudi Arabia. I think they have no income tax, right? And they have just so much oil, so they can basically make it off the oil. Like we could be a country with no income tax, but because of idiotic political systems and restrictions, we have one of the highest taxed societies in the world, which is where an economy goes to die. Like you got to cut the tax. Canada could be such a great place if like with just a couple of changes, like open up free business. Like obviously you can't let crazy people do crazy things, but we can cut taxes. We can make it an investor friendly place to bring people into Canada and keep money here rather than raise the taxes and just make everybody leave.
Foster innovation, bring people who want to be here. Even people like engineers, for example, or like coders, they're leaving and they're going to the States. They make twice as much
because they make more and they pay half. They make more. I hear this story all the time. Do you know how many people talk to me about wanting to go to the U.S.? And I don't think everybody needs to run for that, but they see the grass is greener, and largely to blame is like the political climate right now. And it'll swing. Things swing back and forth. Like they see the damage it does. They'll probably undo some of this stuff, the capital gains thing, like, insult to injury in a time where they really didn't need that.
Well, I mean, you look at the medical system, I'm like, it's already punished as much as it is. And you start, putting that cap gains on like you're just pushing people. And I think you're right. Like, I think Canada has such a opportunity to become a great nation. And just for whatever reason, we just seem to continuously make the opposite choices of what should be made. We sell off all of our private resources, or we don't take advantage of the ones that we do have. We keep taxing everyone. We keep pushing the taxes higher. We're creating a huge divide between the lower and the upper classes. The middle class is disappearing. And it's just like, I think we're at a point where it's like, we don't, in the grand scheme, like, we have a lot of time left, but, to be able to really correct the course, you got to start making decisions soon and kind of, reverting things back, or you do open, the door up to immigrants really, and not that it's the immigrants' fault, but just in terms of immigration controlling the direction of how things are run in Canada. Just the essence of what Canada
is. Because they'll
and
change the value system of Canada. I mean, that's inevitable, right? If we don't bring them in at a pace where our culture is the predominant one, then it's whatever culture is brought in. And that will change the country.
And I think we wonder why, they demonize investment, they demonize investors, real estate investors going and trying to make it in this country. But it's like, with the opportunity that's in front of us, there aren't a ton of more opportunities in the country. You get taxed to oblivion. You have to find a way to be able to make it. And it's not getting any easier when the cost of living is increasing drastically. There's a reason why we have an explosion of people looking into this, into real estate investing and trying to learn more, because it's
They're
not
looking for a
only out
way.
of, it's out of necessity. Like they have to, because that middle class is no longer there anymore.
No.
It's gone. You either need to make it happen, or you're going to be stuck with an extremely high cost of living, taxed to oblivion, and you're not going to have anything.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, real estate was the way. I've said a very similar point. Like, people are doing this not because they love doors and bricks and mortar. They're doing it because they see it as a path of freedom.
Yeah, well, I think they get into it and they realize like just how stressful it is, and it's not just, hey, I bought a home, I made $2 million. Like
well, not anymore.
Not anymore. But even then, I mean, like, even when the market was hot, I mean, obviously you could get lucky, but I mean, there was still effort that had to go into it. You still had to have the capital to inject into it, and I mean, like it's it's not necessarily like a faint of heart business to get into. Like it can be stressful. Like the risk reward is obviously like it's there, but I mean, like like you have an opportunity to lose everything, and we've seen people over the last couple of years.
We've seen a lot of it, right?
A lot of people losing.
This
everything.
has tested just about everybody. Anybody who says that they haven't felt the pinch from it, that we've all felt it. It sucks, man. And the worst is that I saw it coming from the day of the first lockdowns.
I just let everybody know, man.
I saw what was gonna happen. I'm like, you're gonna cause an inflation crisis. I was like literally hosting webinars back in like April, like telling people this is bad. Talk to your politicians. Back when I thought that would actually do anything.
Yeah.
Now I just look at it like the best thing that I can do is to get my own shit in order and to lead by example, and to make sure that I'm not dependent on anybody, and have a big family. I'm working on that. I'm way behind. Yeah. I got number 2 coming real soon. So
number 3 on the way after that.
We'll see. I don't know.
My little Brady bunch.
I think my wife's on board for 3 total. So that's better than nothing though. So so we're that's my thought. Like we just gotta be better and lead by example. So I think each and every one of us, rather than think you can change our political climate, you can't. Yep. You can't change the immigration, but what you can change is what you do at home and
that's very
the decisions you make.
Like PBD, Patrick David, like he talks a lot about that. Like sticking within your values, like ensuring that you're building the group. Like if you're not okay with the school system, find a teacher, get a few people in your neighborhood, get a group of 20, 30 people, chip in for a set. Like you have
don't be
to start
a victim,
taking things into your own hand. And it's not just money. It's societal values, your own principles, your values, whether you're religious, whether you're not religious. But, whatever side of the coin you're on, like if you think that this is the way to go, and I mean, that's another conversation too, where people are just sitting in the middle and saying, well, I don't care anymore. I can't do anything. I'm not picking a side. Like that's just as dangerous as, quote unquote, picking the wrong side. But like, you really have to take everything, not just finances, into your own hands and start actually making some decisions, or else no one's going to, and there's going to be no influence to change. Yeah,
you can't be a victim of your circumstance, right? Like anytime we ever feel victimized, like we're like stealing all of our own power. Because if you're a victim, you can't respond, you can't change anything. And I just don't see any point in ever thinking like that, ever feeling like that. Why? Ultimately, every situation we find ourselves in is a result of the decisions we've made leading up to that situation. And if we can come to terms with that we're never the victim, like we always played a part in where we are at, we're empowered, now we can change it. And I think that's just the big thing. That's how I have a little bit more inner peace, because back in the early days, if you guys followed me back then, like I was like just having panic attacks about how everybody was just buying into this garbage, and that it was okay that you could lock everybody down and destroy everything that Canada was. And I kind of took it personally. Anyways.
Yeah, it's your country.
So
you're Canadian.
Yeah. So I was, but I wasn't at peace, right? Like, because I was like trying to change everybody else, and that's pointless. So
I think that like lack of patriotism on like a grand scale is like really what kind of gets me going about Canada. I mean, like you go down the States, and obviously you're down there pretty often. I mean, like it's like
they bleed red, white, and blue, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, unless
that as much
on the
Canada.
right they do. Yeah. On the left, you're a horrible racist and a slave owner or something. I don't know. Yeah. So I think patriotism is one thing. Again, I think like embody the values you want others to have, and then
appropriate patriotism.
Exactly. Yeah, like be kind, do good. Treat people well, and like because. Cause and effect is real. Like, I believe in karma. Like if you treat people badly, you're going to, it comes around. So
the world needs more of it, man. I think that, as you said, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your people, become equipped. We don't have the Second Amendment here, but like, just be prepared, take care of yourself, take care of your people. Well, understand.
But there's nothing to stop people from, getting a visa to be able to spend time in another country, or, I am a big believer that you can invest in Canada and not be a resident here too. I know a guy that does that. He skirts all the Canadian income tax, but he still invests here through a company. So you can do that. There's ways you can do all that stuff. You could even just diversify, have money in other countries. Like you don't need to be all here. Like this to me, like it'll always be home in a sense because my family's here. So. But am I willing to leave and call another place, home? Yeah, of course. Like, and I'm willing to not be a Canadian tax resident. I think that'd be swell, actually. So
doesn't sound too bad.
I'm working on that too. Working through the visa process. So, like, that's all stuff I'm thinking in the longer run. I mean, my wife's not fully on board with that stuff yet, but I mean, I'm opening the doors to that stuff.
I think you're seeing more. I mean, you take a look at money in real estate anyways, and you follow the traces of money. A lot of non-resident money coming in, and I mean, government or people in real estate have known that for quite some time. Like the majority or a very large amount of money that's coming in is non-resident. Yeah. I think that also concerns me though, is that like Canada has created like an environment where more and more people are willing to, to leave and not be the resident. And I think that also kind of gets dangerous as well too, because I think it's like the people who are considering that are the people that are in the mindset of, hey, I need to be accountable for my own actions and for my own.
Like the
those
best,
are the people
you're saying
really
the
want,
best people, the best people are the ones leaving. That's the truth. The most capable, the smartest, the most willing to take their own circumstance into their own hands. Those are the ones
business
that'll
owners,
leave.
Job creators.
I can't tell you how many conversations I had when that whole additional tax came into effect. Like I am getting up and leaving, and a lot of people would talk about it, like the high net worth ones, the ones who had businesses. But after that was almost like the straw that broke the camel's back. There were so many business owners who were like, absolutely not. Like I'm gonna find a way to get my money. I'm gonna leave the country, and obviously I think they implemented like an exit tax.
So there is an exit tax.
They're definitely looking at
so
if you implemented.
If you have corporations, like anything you own in Canada, when you exit, you have to do a deemed disposition, which means that they're going to value present market value on anything you own, and then you pay as if you sold it. So you now owe the taxes as if you sold it. But I hear that you can, if there's like $1 million bill and you have like $1 million in equity in your house, you can secure it as a CRA. Basically, becomes a mortgagor on your home. So it's interest free. I'm told.
That's wild.
And just basically, whenever you sell the house, you pay out that debt. Yeah. So if you happen to keep something here. So the deemed disposition is what they're going to do to make it very difficult for you to renounce Canadian tax residency. Well, basically Canadian residency. So you don't get OHIP. You don't pay the taxes here. You could still be here for 6 months less a day. You still have your Canadian passport. And I think that that's an ideal place to be. Just for me personally, we'll have the passport. We'll pay for our own medical insurance.
Yeah.
And we can come spend time with family here in the summers when we actually would want to be here, and then go somewhere else during the time we wouldn't want to be here. So
I heard they're even looking at like a $20,000 or $25,000 like per person exit fee too. Like, I don't think that's been implemented.
I've heard that, but that's pretty small compared to what it could be if you have the deemed disposition,
The
right?
people leaving are the people who got money, like $20,000.
Yeah, that
okay.
is.
Like,
I remember hearing that. I'm like, as if that's going to stop the type of people who are about to leave.
Yeah,
you don't have the people who have a good grand.
Oh, you know what? I was willing to do all of it, but that $25,000.
I just buy my exit. Okay, perfect.
Interesting time to say the least. You know, we have a market that's kind of being defibrillated back to life at the moment. We've turned the corner.
A few drops, right?
Yeah, we have.
We had bond rates just came up a little bit, but that scared a few people. But I think that was more to do with the oil situation in the Middle East.
Yeah. We have brink of World War III, depending on if we think people are gonna start throwing some missiles. You know, we have an election coming up in the States, one coming up here next year.
We just dodged a giant dock strike in the States too, which would have been pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
the whole East Coast almost.
But when in history, like recent history, has it not been chaos? Like you could at any point in time say, "Oh, we got this going on, this going on." I mean, it never changes.
I think that's what I was getting at. Was like, there's always going to be something.
Yeah.
Well, especially with AI now and the tech, like, because what I'm hearing is a lot of these like labor-esque type guys, like the dock workers and stuff like that, like. With the emergence of AI and the possibility of a lot of these jobs being taken over by, autonomous robots and whatnot, like it's not so much of a hey, we're trying to really fight for our hours here, but it's more like we need to stay prevalent and remind people of like how much of an impact we have on the society and just keep that at the forefront, because as this AI stuff starts to come like emerge, like you're going to start to potentially lose like huge populations of worker and income. And again, like where does that do with the economy? You're talking about middle class division, like
there's not going to be any room for people who can't value add, because AI will never take like what it is to be like human alive. Like AI thrives on humans, right? It takes everything it can study from us and synthesizes that into its responses. Without human input, it becomes this nothing. Like it needs us.
Until you have AGI. Until you have something that can think for itself, which is sentience.
And then until you,
but it'll still never have the human spirit, right? Like it'll never be us. So I'm actually a big AI fan. Like I think it's great. I know a lot of people are on the fence with it or scared about it. I'm not. I think that what it's going to eliminate is it's going to eliminate button pushers. Like you're not going to have people who can't think, can't be creative. AI takes your job. But if you can think and be creative, AI has nothing on you.
Yeah, like those people are already losing their jobs.
It'll be a tool for you. I love it as a tool, man. I can just narrate a bunch of stuff into it and say, clean this up and make it sound good, and done. So yeah, it's such a tool, man. Has it not made your lives easier?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, the stuff I can get done.
Yeah, no, I love it. I throw in some underwriting into it and I ask it to summarize a handful of things, and it can do what would take like an hour. It can do it in 30 seconds. I've added it in my process on a handful of things, and it fundamentally changes and fixes, adds time to your day. Like, it's amazing.
Even asking like PDFs, like or somebody sends me something and I'm trying to find something in it, I'll just PDF it, upload it to chat, ask it questions about it. Okay, got what I needed there.
If you've ever had to sift through bank statements, you just throw it in.
You can summarize appraisals. You can summarize like everything, like anything that just is script. Like just
the speed of getting to information is like excellent.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how it shifts into, the mortgage space and the res side. And I think banks have been trying for a while to be able to have that auto approval. I think it's coming, but
was it Nest or Rocket? One of them is slowly starting to implement something. I think like one of those two, Nesto or Rocket Mortgages, I think are pushing. But on the res side, I think it's going to be. I mean, like it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, your personal GDS, TDS, like it's going to automatically pull a credit bureau. Your bank statements get automatically uploaded. CRA, I mean, you really could. Like CRA automatically pulls like your NOA. Like it has everything that it can pull from a system, and it could tell you right away your debts to income ratio and what you could afford without talking to a.
And we can all do a lot of those automations too. I've never used Zapier or Zapier, however you say that, but I'm told that you can integrate that with chat and start doing like a lot of that stuff.
Crazy.
You can have it like write emails for you. Like you just talk to chat, write me an email from this email address to this person. And have the email say the following, and then hit, and then read it back to me. I'll read it back to you. Okay, send it.
I love that.
Or you can just go to your computer and it'll be in drafts. So you tell it everything to do. And then you can even have it auto scour your inbox and then just respond to all the emails, throw them all in the draft. You just go in, okay, approve, and just send them back.
They have smart calendars now that learn like the things like,
Yeah.
oh, you're booking certain meetings during this time on these days. You have your lunches, your gym times, your whatever. Like it's just eventually planning your entire days for you. You don't even have to really do anything. Like it just learns over the course of months, and there you go.
That's pretty darn useful. I mean, obviously, like the other part of me would just be like, oh man, that's creepy. I don't want that. But nah, I'm just like, yeah,
I already
I'm not worried about it.
accept all the terms and conditions. They already know what I want before I want it.
I'm traditionally like the guy that's just like, no, I'll be in a cave somewhere. But nah, I'm not worried about it. I think that, as I've said before, like just don't be afraid of that crap. Just do your thing. Yeah. Don't be dependent on that crap. That's for sure. But
use the tools.
Yeah, use it as a tool.
If you're
it's
creative,
like a hammer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Andrew, appreciate you coming on, man. This is great. It's
this is a good talk. I don't think we had any specific direction with it.
Amazing. Yeah.
No, I think people want to hear what you're doing, what's going on, how things are going. So really appreciate you taking the time today to come on and chat with us. Do you want to leave the listeners with anything specific, piece of advice, anything that you're thinking right now?
Yeah, I think I already said it. Just do your thing. Don't be a victim. Take control of your situation. Hard times don't mean it has to be hard times for you. I mean, we've all felt it, but respond to your situation rather than be a victim of it.
Love that. Love that. For all the listeners out there, if you guys did like what we had to say today, please share this with people we're trying to get this going, get it rolling. If you did want to have any questions or want to reach out to Ehren and myself, feel free to reach out. Our contact information is going to be below. And if you have a topic or person that you want us to talk to, feel free to shoot us a comment. We'd love to be able to connect with those people. Again, appreciate everybody listening today. We will see you again next time.